Welcome to the Women in Vinyl podcast with Jen DiEugenio, founder of Women in Vinyl, and contributor Robin Raymond. This podcast facilitates conversations with those working in the vinyl record industry to educate, demystify, and diversify the vinyl community.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4. I know I'm one of the many in a sea of fish. Yeah. And in a well, I drop a penny when I make a wish. I'd love to get to know you more. I think we could have something. Yeah, I think we could. Underneath that gorgeous smile, there's a heart that needs some good loving. I don't know what you want from me. I don't know where I stand. One day you're all over me, the next day I'm just a friend. I don't know what you want from me, I'm left without a clue. So watch out, baby, one day I'll be over you. Yeah.
Thank you for joining us on episode 38 of the Women in Vinyl podcast. You just heard Over You by the fabulous Gail George off her upcoming album, Bloom. You can check out more and find the upcoming vinyl release at gailgeorge.bandcamp.com. It's time at last for part 2 of our updated State of the Industry discussion, this time from the vinyl collector's perspective. How do we feel about buying records these days? Is vinyl truly forever? Do we still care about all that splatter? Keep listening for all the answers to these questions and more. If you're listening to this and it's still March of 2023, don't forget to join us in the Women's History Month Women in Vinyl Drive to help us raise funds for trade programs, scholarship opportunities, internships, and more. We're already halfway through the month. Thank you for those who have already joined in. If you haven't, check out links on social media or at womeninvinyl.com for more ways you can contribute to furthering the demystification, education, and diversification of the vinyl industry. Now let's jump into part 2. Today it's all about collectors.
Oh, sweet collectors.
So, like we said, we had a really good turnout. 154 at the close of the survey.
Yeah.
And a pretty diverse group. We had 44% had been collecting for over 20 years. 23%, 10 to 20.
I guess that's both of us too.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So, I mean,
Can't believe it, but
like,
yeah.
oh my God. And then I was like, wait a minute.
I know, we're old.
I'm an old bitch. I've had records for my whole life. It's fine.
Oh, yes. But yeah, so we had 23% are 10 to 20 years, 18% 5 to 10 years, and 15% 1 to 5 years. And one person just started.
Welcome, person. Be the change. We had a bunch of different kind of collectors. 83% were a combination of new and used. 11% were new only, and 6% were used only. I wonder if that is how their collection started too, because I wonder how many have if they're including hand-me-downs in the used. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know. Back when I first started collecting, Salvation Army was a hot spot.
Totally.
So almost all of my collection started used for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Love that. I love a used record.
Yeah. I feel like there's a lot of stuff. I was just talking about this today that is getting reissued that doesn't need to be. Like some random Chicago record that are literally always in the used bins.
Yeah. I mean, well, now that I am spending some of my let's say, free time, the mighty Recordland in Calgary. Come see me at Recordland. We were discussing that very thing and how some of the titles that people are asking for, like, and they're expecting to be used, are just like not available anymore because they're not being repressed or they're not in the priority back catalog for some labels. So, maybe some of those records will just like disappear out of the secondary markets because they're just going to be in people's collections,
Yeah, I know.
And then the only time that those will eventually be available is when those people either die and leave their collections, or they're just like, I can't do this anymore, take them all.
Yeah, like the one guy on Instagram. This collection is yours now, or whatever. He's in Australia.
Yeah.
He had like thousands of records, and now he's just like done.
Yeah. And the formerly known as "You collect vinyl now" into "My vinyl is your vinyl."
Yeah. Yeah.
That was an epic collection too. Wowee.
Yeah.
I mean, he still has some pretty amazing things. He's a concert pianist, if I'm remembering correctly.
Oh wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Lots of beautiful obi Japanese stuff. So
Totally.
yeah.
I mean, that's probably easier to get in Oz than it is on our side.
Yeah.
And then the next question that we asked was about weight preference, which we all know is a giggle
Your favorite
for me. 64% in the great category of no preference, which is where 100% of everybody should be. 31% said 180 gram, to which I say, get a scale and weigh all of your records, get back to me and tell me how many of them are actually 180 grams. And 5% are weighing in at 140 grams.
Ooh. Yeah, and then color. So the color is another topic that we often talk about. 29% are lovers of black vinyl, 23% color, 24% whatever matches packaging best, and 5% special effects, splatters, etc. The rest were variations of I don't care, mostly exclusive, or whatever is available. The people who have given up.
Yeah. I just want the record. Thanks. We also asked how the public is buying records. 44% of you lovely humans are still walking your butts into record stores and getting them, which
Yay.
Bravo.
Yes.
Bravo for that. Supporting small business. 31% said artist or band direct, and that is awesome too. Making sure that the bands get as much of that record money as possible is incredible. 24% directly from the label, 19% from our friends at Discogs. Still waiting on that sponsorship, guys. And 13% at a record show, 42% all of the above. You are all takers. You just, wherever that record is going to be, that is where you're going to find it. And then the remainder were record fairs, vinyl swaps, eBay, and lastly, our good friends at Amazon. ...
Have you ever purchased a record on Amazon?
I don't think so. I know that my mother has for me, but I have not. I don't. Yeah. I'm going to say maybe. I'm going to say a hard maybe.
Yeah.
How about you?
No. Okay. I'm too afraid of how they will show up.
How it's going to be. Yeah.
Yeah. So no, eBay. I had to go to eBay though.
Yeah.
Because Discogs, with some bootleg stuff, and as we all know, I only condone this for Black Sabbath. However, I had to go there. So yeah. So we asked you what impacts your purchasing of records. And overall, price and availability was 49%. People saying that those were the biggest factors. And then supporting artists and indie retailers was 26%. They wanted their money to go directly to artists and record stores, which is awesome.
That's what we're here for. Absolutely.
Of course, there were things like how desperately I want them.
Yeah, well, that I can commiserate with that. Yep. There's some
Whatever I find, what I want.
who is benefiting from the purchase, I think is a good one. And my very, very favorite response of all of this is it a juicy banger?
Yeah. Yeah. So we asked also, what is something that you wish was different about how you buy and collect records? And this is interesting, and I think things that we can definitely buy into. 20% cite concerns when deciding to buy as availability of certain color variants or simply whether or not the label or store has something in stock at that moment. I think that there is that like fear that you're not going to get it factor.
Always, yeah.
Um,
Which
so
I think would be alleviated if they just cut down on how many variants they made.
exactly. And as
You know?
we and as we'll progress, I think it's interesting that more and more people are starting to say enough's enough, especially if you're a completist or if you,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
like,
It's the most.
yeah, no one wants to have to buy 20 versions of the same record when it comes out if they are that
Just
type of person. Yeah.
well, yeah. I mean, as that person, I am like it's hard. It's like a hard thing to be like, I really love this artist. I really want to support them. And I mean, right now, one of my very, very, very favorite artists just released a record. And yeah, there was 9 variants. And I was like, $54 each variant.
Ooh.
Yeah.
And like we talked about on the last episode, like that press time too is just
Anytime you start to change all the variables, you increase the amount of time that is going to take to make that record.
mhm.
Not only do those poor press ops need to extricate everything from the hopper that is not the right color, but then they also need to refill the hopper, get whatever extraneous colors that they need. They need to get maybe there's a different variation of the label, so then they need to get new labels. Maybe that one has a different stamper something too. So all of those things need to change. And then when they actually start to press the record, they need to figure out a new cycle time, a new cooling time, and figure out how long that record needs to be in that pressing machine to be good.
Yeah. And I think one thing that's interesting in regards to the variants that I kind of feel is the country specific exclusive.
Uh-huh.
That happened to me with the recent Elder release. I ended up buying it from overseas versus waiting for the Armageddon one just because I liked that version better
Yeah.
as far as the way the package looked. But yeah, then you're paying for international shipping in some cases. So, well, and then 10% say that long wait times or pre-orders are a concern when deciding to purchase something. I think it's interesting because last time we saw that labels are changing their release structure a little bit in regards to this. So this is where I think, again, people are starting to get on the same page.
Well, I mean, with the increase in pricing and increase in wait times, I feel like the cascading release schedule is the way that you have to go, and it actually reinforces your sales because if it's available digitally and you can listen to that record and you have decided like, oh yeah, this is it, this is the thing, I'm going to buy it, you have more of a shot that you're going to actually like make that sale
Mm-hmm.
rather than waffling on it, especially now
Yeah.
where, oh, I've heard one song off of it and it's cool. Do I want to pre-order it? I mean, yes.
Yeah. And I think the exclusivity also is interesting when we consider all the issues with shipping that everybody has too.
Yes.
We talked last time about how like you're even considering packaging your records differently when they go out. Because yeah, with limited pressings and limited availability, and then someone bends it in half with USPS, like,
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and it's not just an easy swapsies.
no. I mean, two things that I know that we've covered ad nauseum, but I just want to point out here because they're so poignant from the collector perspective is comments like that they wish labels weren't so greedy. And I think that again, we need to remember the cost of all of this and all the hands that are going into it. And the other thing that is also mentioned quite a bit in here is quality.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, again, this is where I always relate vinyl and fast fashion
Yes, totally.
over and over. I feel like I'm saying this. It's like if you want something good, you have to wait for it. And you have to then that feeds into all of these other things that people are struggling with.
Yeah,
So if
I
you
mean,
want the quality, you have to wait for it and you have to pay for it.
you have to pay for it, and that's 100% it, because at the end of the day, you can't expect to retain quality people, quality control people, for no money. Like, those jobs in those factories are not easy gigs.
Mm-mm.
And I mean, I'm not talking outside of school here either, but like the QC on records, man, like you're getting like maybe one every 25, maybe one every 30, depending on side lengths, like depending on cycle times. I mean, we kind of talked about this with Ren in our episode on quality control, but like it's hard to, depending on how many presses you have and like what's going on. And then if you have a record that is not coming out well, you have to spend more time away from the other records that you're supposed to be checking with your
Dialing
press
it in.
and that machine to try and dial it in. So they're going to press two more, and then you're going to listen to it again and be like, okay, like this is diminished or whatever. You need to clean the stamper. Maybe this is cracked. We need to increase the cycle time. I don't, something like the labels keep shattering, whatever it is, but like you need to focus all of your time. And so if that person isn't being remunerated properly, like how many Julie Andrews cares do you expect them to give? And then how long is that person going to last in that position before they pack it in? And then that factory needs to try and find another QC person and retrain them. And then how many records are going to go through their little ears or hands before they understand the gig?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So
I also feel like quality isn't necessarily subjective, but there are so many factors. Like if someone comes back to me and says that there's some issue they're having, there's a laundry list of questions that I need to ask before we can get to the bottom of what that issue is. And so I feel like seeing that is hard. I mean, we've talked about it before, like how is your tone arm set up? Have you cleaned the record? Is your needle clean? Like what turntable are you playing it on? Because we've seen where people have those auto arm turntables that sometimes don't play the end or beginning of songs. There's so many things that it's just hard to just blame press ops.
Blame. Well, you got to just blame the record, because the record is like an inanimate object. So it's like first it's the record's fault, but then it's whoever made the record's fault. But it's also, if there's unwanted distortion from someone's ears in the record, and then they're blaming the press operators or the factory when it's actually the way that it was cut, like that's still not the factory's problem.
Yeah.
I mean, that could be a plating issue potentially, but like generally it goes back prior to the factory. So, I mean, that's why I think it's so important for us to keep kind of reintroducing these concepts.
Well, and that sort of leads really well into the reason for delays. And like, I just want to clarify, at least from everywhere I have worked, that nobody is jumping in line.
No.
That's it. So I don't know, like, if there's another pressing plant that's doing that. I don't know. But this myth of so-and-so is getting put in front of me, the majors are getting put in front of indies, like, let's put that to bed. Yeah,
no, if anything, the majors have a set kind of capacity at whatever plant, and multiple plants, not just one, but multiple. And then if they are experiencing a delay in mastering, plating, whatever, they are jockeying their own jobs around their own jobs within their own capacity. Nobody's jumping queue other than the label jumping their own queue with whatever project they've got.
Right.
So
and it's the same thing with indies. Like If two bands that are friends put in their order at the exact same time, have the exact same quantity, the exact same color layout, if something happens in that test pressing phase, or if art is not sent in and approved in time, that space in the queue is going to get moved. That's how it works.
Or as we've discussed before, if they send their art in the wrong format.
Yep.
They don't send it in layered, they send it in compressed and flattened to the template. Again, it's going to be rejected. You notice that there's like an extra space in between the words, and you're like, hey, is this exactly how you want it? You have to ask. It has to go back. It's there. I mean, that's the thing. Nobody's fast tracking something to get it out the door. Maybe you can speak to this from your side in the factory side, Jen, but like, when you're going back to ask for a question that might be time sensitive, I mean, there's probably a phone call. Generally, 90% of the people in the world don't answer phone calls now. So when you send that email, what is your time frame to get a response to still be able to execute whatever you need to do before you're like, and you gotta like delay it?
Oh, I give people breakdowns. I mean, it depends on how unresponsive they are, because, I will tell people, if I don't hear back from you by X date, I'm going to have to put your job on hold. Just depending on what the issue is. And it goes both ways. I'll have something where maybe I need to investigate with plating and I need to ask the plating facility what's going on. And then I have people emailing me, update, update, question mark. And I'm like, as soon as I have an answer for you, I'll let you know. Like, it's been 2 days. So, like, we're doing our best. I'm keeping you informed, and yeah, it's crazy. But so that's one side of things. The other side that was interesting is that I do think some education is trickling out there, because 75% of the respondents did have some reasonable understanding of pressing plant capacity, material shortages, backlogs. So that is great. That is the majority, and that people are understanding that.
Yeah. I like to think that we're part of that.
I hope so.
Yeah. I get a lot of like, I learned a lot of things today, and I'm like, great. Happy to be of service.
Yeah.
Like, that's what we're here for. Tell your friends, tell people that you don't like. I don't know. Like,
I mean, we love hanging out with each other, but at the end of a long day,
yeah,
we're here for the people.
We are. We are spreading the truth.
Well, let's move on to this tab that's notes for the labels.
Oh yeah, I love this one. This is a good one. It's always nice when feedback can go both ways.
Yeah. So we asked if there's one thing you wish you could say to labels or manufacturers overall that would make purchasing records more enjoyable or better for you, what would it be? So
overwhelmingly, it was please focus more on
QC, price, and less variance.
And less variance, yeah.
So that's interesting, because I know there's still, like we said, retail variants, country variants, show variants. So, and then other things we talked about, which were shipping, packaging. There was sustainability popped up, which was good to see.
Yeah, that's a great one too. Yes.
I believe there was one comment that shrink wrap is crap, and poly bags are superior. Yes.
Yeah, that was from the label back to everyone, which is,
yes.
I love a clap back, so I'm all about that.
So those people are seeing eye to eye.
Yeah. I think there needs to be a bit of a reality check.
Well, so like for an example today, I mean, there was a project I was quoting that if someone were to receive it in a record store, if they were to just look at the package, it would be a gatefold jacket with a colored record.
Yeah.
If they opened up that package, the jacket would have a die cut, and there would be a booklet included.
Wow.
So for all of that, at 2,000 pieces, we're talking like $20,000 because of all of the things that are involved in that. That's before shipping. That's before it goes to retail, before all of the different people get their payouts and their percentages added to it, before tax. So, I mean, if someone's going in and putting all of these bells and whistles into the packaging, like that could be part of the reason why the record is so expensive. So what do we want, especially when we've come to a time where it's like Instagram vinyl. Like I love the vinyl community on Instagram more than anything. Some of those people are true friends, but we have to consider that there are people that are buying records to post on Instagram. And so, if that is driving sales, then people are going to try to get cooler packaging and cooler looking records so that when they share them, more people want them. So,
yeah, but I mean, the more, and that's exactly the thing, the more things that you put in, and this is a direct, like from the comments to the label from people, like more content with releases, 12-inch booklets, gatefold sleeves, bonus discs, etc. I mean, the more stuff you put into that packaging, the more chance that your record has a chance of getting damaged too, because of all of the extra layers that are going to be smooshed on top of each other or next to each other. So there's that. I mean, extra weight for shipping, which needs to get billed somewhere.
Which is also going up. I just got the notice for USPS that it's more expensive.
Yeah. Well, exactly. So I mean, you want prices to go down, but you want more. So I mean, you can't have it all. No one can have it all. That's the thing. Like, I think if anything, we need to get simpler and better. And that's where I think we need to go. Like, really cool art, sure. I mean, maybe an insert. You want to be cheeky, but like, I just want a good sounding black record that's like somewhere between 140 and 180 grams.
Well, let's flip it then now, because we have a perfect opportunity to then say what the labels would like to tell consumers.
Yes. And right off the hop, shrink wrap is trash. And I agree. We use plastic sleeves because they are superior. They're also resealable. So you're going to take the record out of the shrink anyway. Why?
And I think this goes to an overall conversation that the industry needs to have, because for distribution, you have to have the shrink wrap. So why, like, what can we do as an industry, a bigger conversation to combat that? Yeah.
I mean, do you think it's because of like a distro thing, or do you think it's because people just want to make sure that it's a new record and has never been touched? You know what I mean?
Probably that. That's probably what drives it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hold that thought. It's time for an Amanda fact.
When Columbia introduced the 33 1/3 long-play microgrooved record in 1948, they needed a company to create players for the public to play these new records on. They connected with Philco in Philly. Philco came up with the standalone record player we generally think about today. Till this time, record players traditionally came as part of a whole console with an integrated amp and speakers. But now you could just buy the record player. And this approach was embraced, especially by the later emerging hi-fi culture. So if you love upgrading the different components in your stereo setup, raise a glass to Philco. And if you are overwhelmed by the options and prefer a less fussy integrated console, feel free to raise your fist in the air and shake it in their name.
How do you personalize your turntable? Maybe a slip mat of a favorite band, company? A Women in Vinyl slip mat, perhaps? Well, now you can create your own personalized slip mat with your pet's face, a family photo, your logo, and more, using Glowtronics, a company taking your gear to the next level with full-color, print-on-demand slip mats. And yes, you can order just one. From cork to DJ quality, they have tons of options. Use code WomenInVinyl15 at checkout to get 15% off. www.glowtronics-store.com. And now, back to the episode.
Another clapback from the labels. We aren't raising prices to make more money. These things are just getting more expensive. Costs in manufacturing are very real.
Yes.
Yes, they are. Yeah.
I
And
also want to mention this one that says, stop complaining about vinyl not looking like mocks. No one
yes.
sees it until it's too late. A mock is just what someone thinks it may look like. It's made up. This
Yeah.
process is hard. Stop.
Stop it.
And that's fair. I mean, because there's been a lot of records, especially over the pandemic, that I got that were nothing like what they looked like. I think that was because of plastic shortages, but also if the plant hasn't done it before and we're color mixing to match something in the artwork or it's a new blend, we don't know. And they're all different.
I mean,
So,
and that's the art part. That's not the science part.
and it's crazy because like, I went to 4 years of art school, I have a degree in this, and like when I went to work in manufacturing, when you mix PVC colors, it's not necessarily the color wheel.
No,
Sometimes
no.
it creates very strange, very different things than what you would expect.
Yeah,
So,
because they have melting points, and
mhm.
that's when you start to get into chemistry, God forbid. And you have to like those molecules have different melting points and different boiling points and all of that kind of stuff. So they're going to interact differently once you start to heat them and cool them and like sprinkle a little bit of one in and a little bit of another one in and expect them to have all of the same melting point all at the same time.
um,
Let's see. Buy quality, not quantity. Enjoy spinning what you have. I agree.
mhm.
Uh, way too many words to type here. Chill. It's all going to be fine. Spin your records. I love that too. Be mindful where you buy from. Support your local shops, small labels, and buy direct from the musicians themselves. Amen. Hallelujah.
Yes. Stop buying all the Beanie Baby color variants. I loved that one too.
Yes, and open your records and play them. Don't be weird collector, flipper, scumbag. Again, that's not our words. That's
These are not our words. Yeah.
Somebody else's words. Oh, I think we're almost done too. So, yeah. Yeah. Also, jackets are going to get dinged, and not every record is flat. Totally relevant. Totally appropriate. So, yeah, I mean, the label's spicy takes back to the consumers. They're not going to be too spicy because they don't want a mutiny, but
Right.
it's one of those things, guys. Like it's a fragile medium, and we're doing the best that we can. And I love that hyped sticker from Fat Possum. We're doing our best.
Yes, it's the best. A couple quick questions that we can respond to here.
Yeah.
Why isn't it half the price to do 250 versus 500? Good question. Mostly it's because of print. There are some places that are doing shorter run print, but most of the time 500 is the minimum. You're still going to have to do the cutting, plating, and test pressing phase, same regardless. Then you have to factor in print cost, which usually has a minimum of 500. So that's why.
So yeah, I mean, there's setup costs associated with things, and then they've got price breaks at certain amounts, and those differ based on the factory that you're working at or the printing place that you're working with. Everybody has scaled their businesses to be as lean and mean as possible in this economy. So you can't expect that things are going to be just either doubled or halved or whatever. Just ask for a quote, man.
Yeah.
We're here for.
Another one that's a favorite. Can you turn the volume up on the pressing? And the response was no, we can't. Not on the pressing. That was that was the response.
No, but you can turn the volume up on your stereo. That's my answer.
Yes. And things contribute to that, like your extra long sides. I think the last thing that we need to touch on to close out this part 2 is something that I think all areas are touching on, which is capacity, and why can't companies like Jeezy why can some companies like GZ press so much faster than other large plants? And then to piggyback on that, there's concern with all the new plants opening up. And I think that first we can answer the GZ question, but then I think it's important to talk about what you mentioned when we were at Music Biz.
Sure. I'll speak to GZ first, being that they are the largest organization in the world. They're located in the Czech Republic. They also have ownership of Memphis Record Pressing and Precision.
Mm-hmm.
So they can delegate to those plants to increase their overall capacity. So just because something says that it was made at GZ doesn't necessarily mean it was made by GZ. It could have been pressed in Burlington, Ontario at Precision, or it could have been pressed in Memphis.
And now Nashville Record Pressing.
And under Nashville, yes, that's right.
Mm-hmm.
I totally forgot. So they have a veritable army of machines.
Yes.
But they also have something that's called visual vinyl mastering, where they are using computer algorithms to cut those records into metal and not using all of the time and not using mastering engineers all of the time. So it's kind of it's a frustrating thing to be like a mastering engineer and like understand that that's something that's happening when that's taking like a job of someone. Like that is like automation taking a job, literally. Mm-hmm. But it's also just like, if that record was cut by a human, how much radder would it be? Because the person understands the medium a little bit more and is able to, squeeze out a little bit more sides or get some more dynamics or whatever. But those algorithms are only like scanning that file and just like flagging if there's going to be a problem with the cut.
Yep.
So other than that, it's just like a toaster or a panini press.
And they fabricate their own machines, I think, as well. Yeah.
I believe they do. Yeah. So they're a one-stop shop for kind of everything that they need to do. So that's kind of why, I mean, they've created their own infrastructure and strategically placed their assets so they can kind of do whatever they want. They also are partners with A to Z. So
and Pirates Press.
So all of their print materials are like readily available, like just on the fly. So a lot of them just have warehouses of print just waiting and waiting and waiting.
Yeah. They're massive.
Yeah. So that's why like they have the speediness, because they're not, relying on humans at every single step of the way, but they're fine. They're fine. We appreciate them.
They serve a market.
They do. Yeah. And those, like metal mastered records, like a lot of them are, they're good, but, we don't have anything to compare them to because we don't, you're not going to, other than the couple of small instances where we've had the ability to listen to a record that is cut into a lacquer versus the record that is cut to metal, you're not going to have that one-to-one ever. So you get what you get in that kind of respect. And, they're paying for that speed, and they're also paying maybe that cost is a bit reduced because they're not having to pay a person to do it.
Exactly. Yeah.
So that, I hope that kind of like clears that question up a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it again, like they're cranking out lots of records. We love it. It's great for the industry for sure. No shade.
And like we talked about before, if you make your own machines and you can make your own parts, then fixes and uptime on those machines is going to be a lot faster.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and if you're making a machine, you understand how to fix it way more easily than buying a machine from somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
And
waiting.
Having to send out for parts, having to get a person to fly from another country
to set it up. Yeah.
Set it up, to teach you how to do it, to do all the things.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they've definitely, they've optimized and maximized their space in this little world. So,
Yeah.
I mean, kudos to them. That's awesome. If
Yep.
everybody had the gumption to do that, we would be in far different spaces.
Yes. And with that and this pipeline of backlog, we've seen a lot of pressing plants opening. I think on our list here, and we won't name them all, but we have what, 8?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's a lot. And I would not want to be getting into it right now personally.
No.
From a complete startup.
No, I mean, and that's one of the things that, you know, that I think people are just like, oh, well, you can just open a pressing plant and it's fine. It is fine, but please understand that you're not GZ, so you are not creating a new machine. You are going to be getting in line at one of the existing pressing plant machine makers and competing with all of the people that and all of the plants that are existing customers already that are increasing their capacity and have orders in for new machines. So you're going to be at the very back of the line. So I think I was speaking with a friend in the summertime who was interested in starting a pressing plant here in Canada. And I said, it's all fine and good, but you're not going to get a machine for 18 to 24 months if you ordered it today. So,
yeah.
I mean, that's hard. That's a hard thing to sell right now.
And you know, besides learning how to run it and then learning how to make a good record, we also have to talk about what you brought up when this discussion came during a town hall at Music Biz, which is just because there are new pressing plants with new machines that will open up potential capacity, we have to have jobs downstream from that, or upstream in some cases. So like, who's cutting?
Yeah.
Where are we going to find another lacquer manufacturer?
Yeah.
Who else is plating? Yeah. And then when you add all of these other people into it, that's part of what's creating these bottlenecks.
Absolutely. And I mean, and then you've got a staffing shortage potentially too. You've got, especially when you're opening 6 or 8 plants in an existing market. You were like, at the time when we were at Music Biz and they were chatting about opening 6 more plants in Nashville. The calculated number of skilled jobs in that market was between 625 and 650. Just in that one sector, when they already can't fill those jobs for the plants that are existing. So the question becomes, who's going to work there when you already can't get people to work there?
Right. Yeah.
And then add the mastering, add lathes, add lacquers, add all of those things into those equations. And that's always kind of like my biggest thing is, I'm like, mastering is critical and you have to be able to do it. You can't, when people are like, oh, well, mastering is just, you know, managing the sides and the bass and it's just like an EQ and that's it. And I'm like, I love that you think that, and that's completely wrong. And also, mastering records was the original mastering. There was no mastering before records.
Right.
That's the first way. So it's great that all of these new people have learned how to master, including myself, but I'm still not mastering digital. I don't do any other formats. I only do records. So I don't know how to master for streaming. I don't do any of that.
Right.
I don't, you know, like I specifically focus on one area, and I don't like to do a lot of mastering. I like to receive master files so that I can just cut, because that's what I am decent at. I can cut a good record. I can understand what I need to do, but there's a lot of people that are branding themselves or are mastering engineers that have never cut a record before, and they don't know what those parameters are.
Right.
So those people are super critical in that process. And because of the sheer cost to get into mastering, that's a spot that is not being populated by a lot of people.
Yeah.
And mastering houses are kind of on their way out because people are just mixing and mastering in the box and doing lots of plugins and like that kind of stuff too. So, I mean, every single facet of this business is like pivoting and changing all of the time. So it's hard to know, like, you're still going to need a lathe to cut a record, whether that's metal or not. And there's only so many that exist in the world. I had to buy my own in order to get into the game.
Right.
There's not a lot of people that have that ability to be able to do that. So, and a lot of mastering engineers that are cutting records own their lathes or are at studios that have that infrastructure. But I don't see a lot of like people lining up to like intern and apprentice at mastering houses because they can't burn lacquers on training people. So you have like a withering tree, that like a withering pipeline, because you don't have more people getting into mastering that are going to replace all of these incredible engineers, like the Bob Ludwigs, like the Ryan Smiths, like like the Ted Jansons and the Pete Lymans, like.
And this is, yeah, I mean, it's exactly why we exist.
Yeah.
Is to like get people excited about this, to think like, I want to try it. Let me find out a new way to cut direct to metal or create a new machine for that. Or let's find out a new lacquer or sustainable way to cut for vinyl. I mean, that's
Absolutely.
yeah. So like if you're one of these new plants opening up and you're worried about these kinds of things too, like we're working on trade programs, all kinds of stuff. So send us your job postings. Let's make it
Send us
happen.
your money. Send us your money so that we can make this happen, because that is the biggest critical thing. If we want to send people to schools and we want to pay for their programs, we need your investment dollars to help that happen. Jen and I aren't investing any money into our own record collections. It's not something that we're trying to shill for so that we can, be influencers or whatever. We're legitimately trying to create some like life-changing opportunities for people, make some financial leverage so that we can start to change some of these things, start to make some progress, because otherwise, like from 200 mastering engineers in 10 years, maybe there's going to be 100. Maybe there'll be 75. Who knows?
Yeah.
So just a bunch of weird record nerds working with antique equipment. There's a recipe for disaster.
Yep.
Honestly. So, until there's innovation in a lot of these spaces, that's we're going to be limping along at the speed that we're limping along, my friends.
Yes.
So yeah.
Well,
pay for your records.
Yeah. Well, on that note, if you don't have anything else to add, we can just end on a positive from a label to the consumers that says, as long as you keep buying vinyl, the industry will thrive.
That's right. And one from the consumers back, thank you for keeping vinyl alive. So you're welcome. You're welcome for that. Thank you for keeping us employed.
Yes.
Thanks for filling out the surveys and letting us tell you your things. We appreciate that everybody is so involved and engaged in the things that we ask from you. But I think that this was a good little wake-up call for some people, and I'm glad that we did it.
Yeah. And if there are other things like this you think we should be doing, let us know.
Thanks for joining us on the Women in Vinyl podcast. You can join our ever-growing list of sponsors. Other record labels: Selector, Couple Design, Eargasm, Groove Washer, Glowtronics, New Gen Audio, and Vinyl Revolution Record Show. And thanks for sponsoring the show. Hey, as always, you can join our conversation on Instagram or send us a note at media@womeninvinyl.com. Clock us. Send us info. If you have a question, we got the answer, or we'll find it. We won't lie to you. And check out womeninvinyl.com for past episodes, the store, the job board, and the library of resources. Don't forget to like and subscribe and give us a review on your favorite podcast delivery method. You can also contribute to furthering our mission at patreon.com/womeninvinyl. Hey, guess what? This episode, 45 minutes. You know there was more. You want more? You get more. Go to patreon.com and you can get more. And you'll find all the B-sides, the deep cuts, and the amazing extras, including longer episodes, and contribute to the creation of scholarships and educational opportunities to further the demystification, the infiltration of more women and non-binary identifying humans into the vinyl making space, decreasing those turnaround times every week. Yeah, we love your records. We want you to love them too. womeninvinyl.com.
This episode has been brought to you by Women in Vinyl and Red Spade Records. Thank you for listening. Please remember to subscribe, and you can always contact us directly by visiting www.womeninvinyl.com.